King Andal and Queen Galadriel had been fussing over Princess Dimmadel since her return to the castle. At first they detained Sir Breeze, but after Sir Longfollow returned, missing a leg and clutching the left horn of the demon, all was explained and he was healed. Lady True was collected and a short service was held and she was buried. The king and queen had heard of the forgotten powers of a witch princess, purely as a legend, and deducing that if there were demonic forces vying for their daughter, they ought to do something about it. But that need not involve explaining why they were after her. The king had inherited many things from his father: fame, wealth, his castle, and kingdom. But one thing his father passed on was not a nice thing for anyone to receive. His line had never been brought down by any, and had produced only boys for a very long time. Many thought it was just strong genetics, others thought it was a curse. They were half right on both accounts. Long ago, 333 years to be exact, as the final lock to the dungeon that was home to the horrifying beast of a behemoth known as Phosphorus. The enchantment had been placed on their genes to produce no female heir, lest she be able to end the beast's final lock and act as the key to the end of Homire. But a fear that this fate would be accelerated by revealing any of this to Dimmadel, they decided to keep it from her. They did explain her station in the world of witches was very strong, and that many would try to take advantage of her rare talents. Worried that some force might come in the night to harm their daughter, they placed their own protection charms over her, then sent her to bed. In addition to the princess's created henchmen, they placed several other guards to watch over her as well before heading to bed themselves. That night passed without incident, and there was a small sigh of relief from the king and queen that morning, as they had feared for the worst in their dreams. Then they devised a plan to save the princess from her prophesied fate. They would send her away, with guards of her own creation, far to the other end of the world. After debating on the many places in Homire, they resolved the safest for her would most likely be among the Franmian humans. They sent missives to their allies in the Blue Hold asking for suitable housing for their daughter, stating how her identity must remain undiscovered and she will pose as a local noble. The Queen of Lobelia responded saying she welcomes Princess Dimmadel, and to instruct her that she is now to go by the name Lady Maribel. And she is putting her in charge of the village of Moundsmine, assuming she knows her statecraft, that is. If she doesn't, she will happily have her instructed. One other requirement is that she enrolls at the Lobelia School of Magicka as a full-time student for as long as she stays under her care. Relief was swept through the king and queen. They knew the Lobelian queen was a very powerful sorceress that taught the majority of the magic users outside of Evro. They knew that not only would their daughter be safe, she'd be groomed for her life as a witch. Princess Dimmadel was not so relieved. She felt distrusted and hurt that her parents would send her away. But she also knew she had no choice. They would send her with or without her consent. When the day came to depart, her parents had brought her several animals to transform into her royal guard. A fighting rooster, a horse, a swan, a goose, a cat, a bull, another frog, and their family dog whose name was Arklay. The rooster became a well-built knight with gold and red armor that had feathered patterns. He was dubbed Sir Warner. The horse became a broad man with good working muscles. He was dubbed Sir Worklay. The swan became a beautiful handmaiden in white garbs. She was dubbed Lady Passion. The goose became a pretty but homely woman who immediately took a caring, nurturing role as a faux mother. She was dubbed Lady Azure. The cat became a dark clothing-clad rogue with dual daggers and was silent at night. He was dubbed Sir Slink. The bull became a hulking warrior with a mighty cudgel. His armor was light and leathery. He was dubbed Sir Wallace. The frog became an archer, just as the previous one had. She was dubbed Lady Fly. Arklay became a handsome elder gentleman. He said he would pose as her grandfather and adviser. The company of the princess's guard did put some comfort into Dimmadel. Goodbyes were said as Sir Worklay began setting up the carriage. Princess Dimmadel said little to her parents, still resenting their choice to send her off. Sir Longfellow, Sir Warner, and Sir Wallace were given steeds, a red mare named Fira for Warner, a chestnut stallion named Boss for Wallace, and a golden mare named Lady for Longfellow. They said they would follow the carriage. Sir Workley took the reins of the carriage, being in tune with the horse's movements and emotions. Lady Passion, Lady Azure, and Lord Arklay entered into the carriage, with Princess Dimmadel. Sir Breeze, Lady Fly and Sir Slink sat in the guard seats atop the carriage. Sir Warner ran ahead as his horse was fastest, occasionally doubling back to advise a better route or warn of any delays. They were heading north to the town of Levo, where the ship the King and Queen had chartered waited for them. The first day of travel got them just a little over halfway there, and they set a camp up for the night. As the newly dubbed Lady Maribel laid down that night, her dreams were visited by the demon who was once her instructor. Dimmadel's sleep was shattered by a jarring transition from peaceful dreams to a hellish reality. She awoke not in her warm chambers but in a boundless, infernal plain. The landscape was a vast, flat expanse of fiery ground that seemed to stretch infinitely in all directions. The heat was palpable, with flames flickering and swirling like restless spirits beneath her feet. Enormous, jagged spires rose from the scorched earth, each one etched with glowing runes that pulsed with a malevolent rhythm. These spires towered high into the blood-red sky, their tops lost in a haze of smoke and fire. The spires were interconnected by impossible staircases, Penrose stairs that twisted and spiraled in impossible angles, defying the laws of physics and creating a labyrinthine network that hovered above the infernal plane. In the midst of this nightmarish landscape stood the demon. His form was a shifting amalgamation of shadows and flame, his eyes burning like molten lava. His presence was both commanding and intimidating as he observed Dimmadel with a mixture of curiosity and amusement. "Don't worry, I don't mean any harm. In fact, I never did. I am simply doing my duty of instructing the young heiress. And that will have to resume at some point, but in the meantime I want to ask for my horn back," he said, gesturing to the hollow socket on his head opposite his remaining curved black horn. "Why would I do that? You killed Lady True. I know that I could never trust you." She screamed at him. The demon kicked a rock, turning his back on her. "Do you want to know why your parents are sending you away? Do you think it's to protect you from me? If so, how well is that working out so far?" She frowned. He was right. If they meant to keep the demon away from her, they were failing miserably. Which meant that wasn't what this was. They were keeping her away from them. Her face became horrified as she realized all of this. This wasn't to be temporary. She might never see her parents again. "You have powers that no other living being has, and in the past the heiress to the Witch Kingdom has always been taught by a demonic instructor. I am yours. You could have me killed or imprisoned, and it would not matter, as if I disappear I am replaced by another demon, and same for them. And suffice to say, if they had to do that more than once, they start sending much less savory types than the likes of me," the demon proclaimed, turning around and meeting the eyes of Dimmadel and saying, "You'll be needing my help whether you want it or not, so again, I need my horn back." The princess hung her head, not wanting to give the demon anything at all, much less what he wanted. "How would I get it to you?" she said finally after a solemn minute of deliberation. The demon smiled and clapped his hands, saying, "There we go. Well, I can no longer materialize in your realm without that horn, so I need you to fall asleep holding it, and I'll be able to retrieve it here." "And if I decide not to return your horn?" "Sir Longfellow won it fairly, you know," she said. The demon straightened. "Well, I'd be forced to resign by the next demon who'd take my place. They'd throw my soul either into the eternal pyre or out of the universe to fall forever." And you get a new guy who certainly won't be as nice as me," he said. Dimmadel thought for a moment and then asked, "And how long would that take?" The demon narrowed his eyes. "Probably a couple of months, half a year at maximum," he said questioningly. "Perfect, we have time to get to know each other before I decide you can have your horn back," she said smugly. The demon lunged at her only to be stopped by some invisible barrier. He was breathing heavily, slightly disheveled, before adjusting his attire and regaining composure. "I had forgotten. The witch princess has the power to reflexively put up her circle. You remember what a circle is, right?" the demon said, pacing like he did when he was Mr. Zeltrud. Shaking but unharmed, Dimmadel replied, "Why yes, I remember. Every being can create a circle, but most have to draw it physically to enforce it. Witches can skip that process and create a circle as large as their magical capability." Nodding at her answer, the demon said, "Very good. Well, since I cannot force you to return my horn, I will agree to continue teaching you whatever I can until such a time I am replaced or my horn is returned. In the meantime, it is morning in your world and you have a journey. See you next dream." Dimmadel went to speak, and suddenly she was sitting up in her cot in the tent that Sir Workley set up for her.